Hello everyone, it's me, JJ here, the author of Blizzard. Welcome to the second episode of the Blizzard Hailstorm Audiobook. I'm very excited to be sharing the actual formal book with you all. It's been like a year in production, so yeah, I'm itching to get it out, so I'm looking forward to what you guys think. If you want to follow along, you can find a link to the book in the description. All that being said, let's get started. Part 1, The LaPerm. Act 1, G.U.N.R. The flames of the past song are still yet ablaze as the new ballad of the LaPerm begins. She walked through the city as those fires still burned and people still heard, yet a new hope was firmly blooming in her heart and the sky shone clear once more. As she traversed through the ruins of the city, she saw people whose skin was formerly dark and gray, wide awake again and celebrating their freedom. She heard a deep voice call out in praise for the heroes of the city, but despite being one, she did not care. She still had things to settle and debts to pay. Her conscience would never let her forget the crime she committed as a bounty hunter. She needed to turn herself in to face punishment. Who better to turn herself into than the powerful military who just landed to clean up the chaos the dragon caused? This great armada was known as G.U.N.R. In an empty spot of the city filled with ruins, they had set up a temporary military camp to use as a base of operations. It was surrounded by a small fence, included tents for the soldiers to sleep in, as well as a small number of vehicles, including airships, tanks, armored cars, and motorcycles. The LaPerm entered the camp without much trouble, for almost all the soldiers were out tending to the citizens of the city. She looked for the biggest tent, for she thought that the leader of these soldiers must be in there. As she glanced around, she saw very few soldiers, and the ones that she did see were either running to leave or applying their gear to depart. Eventually, she found the biggest tent in the middle of the camp. She entered without much notice, for the general and the 10 other soldiers in the camp were focused much more on their computers and the maps than the little LaPerm that just entered. "Commander Abraham," one of the soldiers said to the general, "the western districts of the city has been secured." "Thank goodness," the commander replied. "Have any more of those corrupted people been sighted?" "No, sir," the soldier said. "They've all returned to normal when the dragon fell." "I see," Commander Abraham answered. "Go and find the fox who killed it. We need more explanation of what just happened." The soldier ran straight out of the room, sparing only a passing glance at the LaPerm as he left. The commander sat at his desk and stared at a map of the city. He was writing stuff down as the LaPerm began to approach him. "Excuse me?" the LaPerm said as she approached the desk. The commander did not even look up at her. "Lost family and relatives? Go speak to Matthew in the back." "I'm here to turn myself in," Esther replied. The commander looked up and got a good look at her. "Turn yourself in?" the commander asked. "You look familiar, but you still don't look like much. What could you have done that could have gained the attention of the military?" Esther's gaze sharpened. "In my past life, I was known as the Mistress of the Wind." The commander shot up from his seat with wide eyes, and all the other soldiers sprang from their computers and surrounded Esther with their guns. "Relax," Esther sighed. "I told you, I'm turning myself in." The soldiers and the commander stared at her intently, watching her every move. "If you don't believe me, then look." Esther then raised her arms and took off her gauntlets with great pain. They were her last reminder of her long-dead friend and mentor, Jolene. Then she placed them on Abraham's desk. The commander took the gauntlets and stared at them at all. As he did so, one of the soldiers quickly handcuffed Esther and took her away into a cell with 3 other soldiers. As they threw her with the handcuffs on, one of the soldiers whispered, "Who would have thought the Mistress of the Wind would turn herself in?" "She had it coming," another soldier replied. "Let's hope she gets put away for a long time." The other one then reluctantly gave Esther water to drink. Since she was still wearing her cuffs, he put the cup near her mouth like she was a child, and she drank from it. Esther did not care how humbling this looked. It was the first time she had anything to drink for nearly half a day. Then they exited the cell tent. The floor was cold, the walls were hard, and the bars were tough. But this tent was no match for Esther the LaPerm. She could have easily escaped, even with her handcuffs on. But she would not think of it. She smiled as she thought that she was doing what Jolene and Kitsuniko would have wanted. Her thoughts were many while she was in the tent, most of them reflections of what happened throughout her life and how far she'd come. She remembered Jolene's eyes, Carol's compassion, Rex's smile, and Kitsuniko's stare. But as she remembered her story during that long night, one element, or rather person, stressed her and bothered her more than anything else. Magnopus. She had forgotten all about him due to the many events that took place the previous day, but now that she had time to think, he started to get under her skin. The way he treated her as she worked for him, the way she was just his tool, the way he threw her into the Dragon King machine, the way he hit her when she failed, especially how he tricked her into burning down her own village, and he was still out there. She got so mad then that she felt ripping all her fur out. Her handcuffs did not help with that. After a long and painful night in the tent cell, the door opened, and the cold light of dawn entered the room along with 2 soldiers, one of whom was there yesterday. "Let's go," he said as he entered her cell and grabbed her by the cuffs. "We're here to take you to your trial." They led her outside into the dim sunlight, where she was brought to an armored truck with a room in the back that functioned as a highly secured cell with no lights or windows. The doors of the room were open, and there were 4 soldiers on each side, guarding the way from the tent to the truck as if they were a fence. Then they picked her up and threw her into the truck forcefully, leaving the handcuffs on and not bothering her to give her a seat or a seatbelt. They thought the punishment of death would not be too harsh. "Serves you right," the soldiers laughed as they stepped away, shut the doors, and locked them. Esther wanted to cry these harsh words, but she would not let herself. None of these men seemed to care at all about her deeds the previous day. I'm glad they don't, Esther thought. If they did, they'd be treating me better than what I deserved. The face of each of her victims flashed into her mind as she remembered what she had done. She forgot the names of many, so she scored herself internally for that. But she could not, and would not ever forget their faces. But she began to wonder, who caused her to commit many of these crimes? She suddenly felt the truck start with a jolt, and before long, they were on the road. All she knew of the journey was the sound of the truck's wheels, when they stopped for a traffic light, or for more gas, and when they would go again. Her thoughts, though, were focused on Magnopus again. She remembered once again when he tricked her into burning her village down. How could someone do something like that? She filled with rage and anger, and even thinking of Jolene and the rest of Team Blizzard did not help, because she would connect those thoughts to those of Magnopus, and she would stare down her empty hands and realize she was bereaved of the one thing Jolene made for her that she still possessed, in part due to Magnopus. It was hard not to shove all the blame onto him. It was only when she thought of Kitsuniko that she calmed down and felt some sense of peace as the truck rolled along. But the thoughts of Magnopus kept returning, and she kept raging. Eventually, the truck stopped for longer than normal, and Esther lifted her head for the first time since she was thrown in there. She had no idea how much time had passed, or how many times she had fallen asleep. Suddenly, the doors opened, and Esther was blinded by the light of the midday sun. 2 soldiers were there, and they grabbed her and took her inside. Then they led her into a great building. It was made of brick and had brown walls and a red roof to match the surrounding city. There was a sign on it that read, G.U.N.R Headquarters. Then they threw her through the heavy wooden doors and into the main room. The tile on the floor was white and reflected the roof and its lights. They reminded Esther of Magnopus' base, and she shuddered at the thought. Fear still laced her memories of Magnopus, despite some of her attempts to mask it with anger. Where the walls were made of wood and brown, thankfully causing no distress. The soldiers brought Esther to a small room to the side, which had a sign above that read, Holding Room Number 1. In it, there was another cell with walls of greystone and the floor darker greystone. How many cells are these guys going to put me in? Esther wondered. Then they removed her handcuffs and threw her in. You're going to remain here until you're tried as hell later today. The soldiers laughed as they left the room. Then you'll be transferred to an even worse fate. The first thing Esther did when the soldiers left was shake her hands. Her hands were very sore, so it was nice to have them free again. Out of some kind to think, she began to get anxious concerning her fate. Would they kill her? She knew it was just, but she still began to shake, as she realized that she would never explore, laugh, smile, or see Carol or Rex ever again. Her heart matched the thoughts in her brain, and it began to ache again. She grasped her chest until it stopped. Then Esther got a desperate idea. Kitsuniko? She whispered. I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can you help me like you did before? I don't want my story to end here. Then she sat on the ground and waited. After 2 hours, someone put bread and water into Esther's cage. It reminded her when Carol gave her a pillow when they first met. She laughed ironically when she thought of them asking her questions and never responding. She then stood up and sat down near the bread and water. She drank the water and tried to eat the bread, but it was so hard she could only nibble at it in order not to choke. After she finished the bread, she waited an hour. It was evening when 2 soldiers entered the cage, fully armed. If you try anything funny, we'll shoot, they shouted. Esther nodded, grabbed her hands, and cuffed her again. They brought her through the main room of the building and into another room. This room had a blue carpet floor and was filled with seats all around that contained many people talking. When Esther entered the room, everyone fell silent and stared at her, with some taking pictures. In front of her there was a small pillar, and a few feet from there was another large pillar with an eagle sitting on it. Next to it there were 2 small pillars. A beetle was sitting down on the eagle's left, whose exoskeleton was radiating with shining blue colors. Nobody was sitting to the eagle's right, but Commander Abraham was standing nearby. Windows were also above them, bringing the light of the sunset into the room. The soldiers then brought Esther to a small pillar directly in front of her and cuffed her to it. Then they stepped to each side of Esther. Once they cuffed her, someone yelled, "Oh, just kill already! Why do we know all these formalities?" Everyone started cheering and clapping, with the soldiers carrying Esther giving her a smile, excluding the beetle, Commander Abraham, the eagle, and of course Esther. "Silence!" the commander shouted. "The great Judge Arbon's about to speak!" The crowd fell silent and waited. "My brethren," the judge began, "you know who we are. We are G.U.N.R, the guardian units of the nations restored. You know how Eggman nearly ended Gun after he took over the world for 6 months. You know how Sonic and his friends took him down, and the restoration helped rebuild. As part of the restoration program, the great leader Jewel the Beetle," he gestures beside him, "helped rebuild and restore the Guardian Units of Nations under the title The Guardian Units of the Nations Restored, in order to bring order once again to the world that Eggman wounded so badly. We built our headquarters here in Sunset City, a place once ruled by Eggman, as a sign that we will never again let this world suffer under his rule. Jewel also restored our Commander Abraham to his former position as the head and gave him ultimate authority over the whole project, equal to her own. Ever since then, we have been working to restore order around the world, especially now, since that dragon fell. We know what we don't know. We don't know why the Mistress of the Wind decided to turn herself in after 5 terrible years of infamy and murder. So please, Mistress, tell us." Esther's breast began to quicken. She always had a problem with public speaking, and this time was to confess her sins in front of the whole world. She began regardless, in a trembling voice, "I am not the Mistress of the Wind. My name is Esther the LaPerm, and I hide none of my crimes. Every night, I see the faces of my victims, and those memories replay in my head over and over. I wish I never did it. The crowd gasped. Jewel sat up, and her eyes locked onto Esther. Then she got a notification on her phone. You know what you are saying, child? Arbonne asked firmly. If this is true, I have no other choice for you but death. Esther bowed her head low to hide her tears. Yes, Your Honor, it is true. I am sorry. All right, then, Arbonne sighed as he reluctantly raised his hammer. I sentence you. Stop! Jewel had interrupted the ruin with her command. What is it? Arbonne asked. I've just received a new report from 2 allies of Esther, Rex the Panda and Carol the Arctic Fox, Jewel said. The crowd gasped. Esther smiled. They heard that the trial was happening today, and though they were not able to make it, they messaged me and told me something important about Esther, Jewel said. She helped greatly in their quest to kill the dragon. She is, in fact, the 3rd member of Team Blizzard and betrayed her old boss, Magnopus, in order to help them. I don't think it would be good, despite all of her crimes, to execute her now, do you? Esther grinned. Although she was questionable when she heard the name Magnopus, she was soon filled with thanksgiving. Kitsuniko had saved her. Thanks, Esther said quietly. I don't either, said Arbonne, much to the disappointment of the crowd. But the enormity of her crimes will not be forgotten in her punishment. We'll give her 30 years in prison, but we will allow visitors. Is this a suitable punishment for you, Jewel? Jewel looked at Esther. It is. All right, Arbonne said. Then he turned to Esther. Then in my power as a judge of G.U.N.R, I hereby sentence Esther the LaPerm to 30 years in prison with visitors allowed. Then he raised his gavel and hammered it. Esther sighed. She would accept having to spend 30 years in prison, but she did not have to face death just yet. The soldiers unlinked her from the pillar, and she was led out of the room with Jewel and Commander Abraham watching her carefully. The soldiers brought Esther out through the main room and back outside, where the sun was almost set. Then they threw her in the back of a truck very much like the first one, shut the doors, and began to drive once again. Esther fell asleep, listening to the sound of the truck's wheels on the road. Later that night, Esther woke to the doors opening. The soldiers then took her out and brought her to a high-security prison suitable only for hardened criminals like herself, surrounded by thick concrete, fence, spotlights, and high towers. Esther felt very small as she gazed at it. Above her there were a great sign etched in the concrete, G.U.N.R High Security Prison. They brought her into the section of building for female prisoners and clothed her in prison garments. After that, they put her in a new cell. It was gray and had only one bed, for she said that she was too dangerous to warn a roommate. Her spirit sank as she looked in and compared it to her beloved outdoors. She then lay down in her cold bed and fell asleep in silence, and her cold gray bed and fell asleep in silence. Life in the prison was tough on Esther. Every day followed the same schedule. Waking up, going to the cafeteria to eat breakfast, returning to her cell, going back to eat lunch, exercising, going back to the cell, eating dinner, and finally, lights out. At first she tried to count the days she spent there, but they started to blend together between days 5 and 6, so she gave up. She did not get along well with the other prisoners, for the lesser criminals were scared with her, while the tougher criminals were pure evil and did not go well with her newfound sense of morality. She got along with the guards for her behavior, though, and they would occasionally let her do some chores around the prison to prevent boredom, which is something many other prisoners could not be trusted with. Being unable to see any of the outside world, other than the sun and sky when she was able to go exercise, took a toll on her heart. Her grief for Julian began to grow deeper again, although she was comforted with the thought she was doing what she would have wanted. A dull routine with no companionship breeds grief. Her hatred of Magnopus also grew. She tried to remember Knuckles' words of forgiveness, but she did not understand how or why she should forgive someone like him. Her thoughts were now focused on the thought that she, now repentant and a lesser criminal in her mind, is trapped in here. He is still out there doing who knows what. She told the guards about this one time, and they comforted her with the fact that they are currently searching for him night and day, and they will not stop until he's found. Most of the time, she still found no solace in this, and it was only with the thoughts of or speaking to Kitsuniko she found her comfort. After about 3 months in this, she received her first visitors, Carol and Rex. She entered the room where they were and saw them behind a glass screen. I'm so glad to see you guys, Esther told her friends. We are too, Rex exclaimed. We would have visited earlier, Carol said. We've been so busy helping the road repair, we didn't have time until now. You're good, Esther smiled. By the way, Rex said, when you get out, I have a project I just finished. It's now in a garage in Blizzard City. Here, I'll give you the address. Then he took out a pen and an orange sticky note and began to write something down. Blizzard City? Esther asked. Where's that? Do you remember the city where we fought Trakton? Carol asked. Esther nodded. Well, not of what we did to save it. They renamed the whole place after our team, Carol said. Esther chuckled. Done, Rex shouted triumphantly. Here's the address. As he said this, he slid the sticky note with the writing 888 Mission Street on it. Thanks, Esther replied. After a long conversation with her friends, during which they shared the information they each knew that the others did not know about their journey, they bade each other farewell, and Esther returned to her normal, mundane life at the prison for another 3 months. At the beginning of Esther's 6 months in the prison, a major discovery is made at the G.U.N.R headquarters. Jewel was speaking with Commander Abraham in the basement of the headquarters, modeled after the base of Gun Vault, being gray and filled with seats and soldiers on the computers. At the front, there were 3 great screens. Commander and Jewel were standing on the glass balcony overlooking it all when a soldier came up to them. "Commander Abraham, Lady Jewel," he said. "You may want to have a look at this." The soldier then led the 2 to his computer. "What is it?" Commander Abraham asked. The soldier clicked a few buttons on his computer, and there was a news report about the crisis district of the city being attacked by strange people who were made of purple and black smoke. Jewel sighed. "What do you expect when the district is named Crisis?" "But wait, there's more," the soldier said as he scrolled through the video. "By 3 heroes, including 2 members of Team Blizzard. But that's not the weird part." Then he stopped scrolling, focused on one section of the video, and pointed to a small corner. "Do you see it?" Commander Abraham squinted, and he managed to make out a snow leopard standing next to an ominous-looking vulture. "Is that?" "That's him, alright," Joel admitted. "Magnopus is back." "Then we need to send a search team after him," the commander said. "But who?" Joel asked. "We have our army." He picked up his phone and was about to call when Joel stopped him. "Wait," she said. "Magnopus is bending on avoiding our army this whole time. What makes you think he'll appear to us now? We're much better off sending an individual agent or a small team in order to locate him." There was silence for a moment as the commander thought. "You're right," he said, finally. "Who should we send?" "Well, what about Esther?" "Esther?" "The mistress," Joel clarified. "Are you insane?" "Nope. The guards at her prison tell me that she's never gotten in trouble or tried to escape even once. Nobody we know knows Magnopus better than she does, and she could load him better than anyone else we've got." "Why would she help us?" "Maybe if she did, we could set her free. We'd much rather have Magnopus in custody than the mistress, and she's unlikely to be a danger to the public." Abraham thought for a long while. Jewel heard the clock tick on the wall as she waited for a response. Finally he spoke. "I agree with you in principle, but I cannot simply send a criminal out by herself. I don't trust that." Jewel got another idea. "What if we send another agent out with her?" "That's a great idea," Abraham said. Then his eyes widened and he smiled. "I already know a perfect agent to send." "Are they trustworthy?" Jewel asked. "On occasion," the commander admitted, "but I've known her for a long time. This particular case should interest her greatly."